Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. We're excited here because it's October and it's getting close to Halloween, hence the orange and all the extra episodes. We're pumping them out over this month. I am Peter, your impeccable host, and I am joined by, as always, representing the every average idiot. He is Tim
Hey,
Forgillish.
well, I mean, I, I guess I don't want to complain if I'm a representative, but
Yeah, you're here to represent the everyman, Tim.
all right. Well, I guess we outnumber you, so watch out.
True, yes. I fear for myself every single night. Anyway, this episode, obviously we talk about horror movies here, and this episode we are going to talk about a movie that Tim brought to my attention. Tim was like, let's do this. Tim brought this to me and said, I want to do this movie, let's do this. And I said, okay Tim, I will trust you. The movie in question is Deathbed, the Bed That Eats. It's about an evil bed that eats people.
Yes. Yep.
Now, I have to admit, hearing that title, I was expecting a certain kind of movie. You know, obviously
Mhm.
the concept itself is weird. It's a bed that eats people. That's already
Yes.
strange, right?
Mhm.
However, the movie's actually weirder than I thought it would be.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now if anyone is like a big comedy nerd like me, they probably recognize the title from a bit that Patton Oswalt did on his CD Werewolves and Lollipops, which that's actually how I came to know of this movie. Which the bit really doesn't have anything to do with the movie.
I was
It's
just
just kind of
before you go on then. So I've got Patton Oswalt to blame for this, is what you're saying.
yeah. I'm gonna pass the buck on to him. Uh, but the bit never describes the movie. It just talks about like how absurd that there is a movie about an evil bed, and that and at the time like it was like just coming out on DVD. So the bit's just about like, oh, can you believe that people worked on this movie and that's coming out on DVD? And then it kind of goes into this long act out of like some like person that worked on this movie that ignored his kids growing up to finish it. But so that's how I knew it. But like you, when I hear a title that's called Deathbed, the bed that eats, I imagine something else. I imagine a giant bed with teeth or something that
Well, I didn't even
you know.
necessarily go that route, but I was expecting a movie where people start going missing, and it's maybe about like a few main characters who
Yeah.
try and figure out why people are going missing, and they eventually, get to the bed, and it develops that way. However, I'm about to tell you how this movie is actually presented to you, and
Okay.
it's almost, it just adds to the weirdness. So it's about a bed that eats people, right? It is narrated by a ghost that the bed is trapped behind a painting in the same room.
Yeah.
So there's a ghost in the wall that watches everything, tells us about it, and comments just on the ongoings of this evil bed and tells us about the history of the bed. In fact,
Yeah.
this is probably not the weirdest thing, but the thing that sticks out to me the most about the movie is that it feels very disconnected from the audience, and that you almost very rarely hear the characters speak. There's very little dialogue. There's a lot of
Yeah.
talking, but there's very little dialogue. It's all narration. It's all this ghost, or occasionally the characters themselves. There's moments in this
Yeah.
movie where you hear the characters' thoughts, but there's very rarely dialogue. It's really, really weird, and it's presented in such a weird way. And I will say this though, I love that it's broken into four parts, and the four parts are called
Yes.
breakfast, lunch, dinner, and just desserts. That is
Yeah.
wonderful. That is wonderful.
Yes. I'll definitely agree with that. And uh, yeah, it's it's so weird, and it's really hard to tell like with a lot of the choices if I like it or I guess like even stuff that maybe I might have not liked. Like I do kind of like how like weird and crazy it is, you
Well,
know?
it's worth mentioning that despite the ridiculous premise of this movie, and not only the bed, the ghost in the wall that's narrating the whole thing, everything about it's ridiculous, but this movie plays every single bit of it straight.
Yeah.
it takes all of it absolutely dead serious. There's not a wink of humor in the whole thing, which is
Yeah,
insane.
it was more like surreal than cheesy, which is
Yeah.
like what I was expecting.
Yeah, I was expecting cheesy and goofy, and it was like that. I don't even like. It's so weird, and I think when I was talking about the narration and how it describes things, and we feel disconnected from the characters, I think my main complaint about the movie, honestly, would probably be that it flows in a kind of weird way because of that. Like, it
Yeah.
feels there's actually not a lot of plot. It's mostly the narrator, the ghost, talking about the history of the bed, and it jumps through like after the first couple of people are introduced. Like there's like a sort of kill at the start, and then we introduced to the main characters, and I use that term very loosely
Yeah.
because we know very little about them, we hear very little from them, but they're the main characters that are there that the story's going to revolve around in a weird way. And after that, though, it almost just starts getting into like a greatest hits of the bed's kills, like the previous owners. It's like, oh, this person died this way and this person died
Yeah.
that way, and it's almost like it's just an excuse for all these weird scenes and then some
Yeah.
exposition, and then the end game happens in the last 20 minutes, and it's a short movie. It's only like 78 minutes, something like that. Which
Yeah.
to be fair, it didn't drag. I'll give it that. It
Yeah.
kept its pace fairly well, so fair play. But it didn't flow in a normal sense, and in the way that I was like, oh, I'm riveted. Like I didn't give a crap about these characters. These characters weren't characters; they were just pawns for the narrator to tell his story.
Yeah, and like you really like do not learn anything about them. Like it's like I could not really give you any defining like characteristics of
And
any of them.
the funny thing was, is I thought we would at the start because it's when we first meet the main characters who are coming to the house after the opening, which we'll talk about. But like, there's a moment where it's three women, right? And one of them, we hear her thoughts the entire way, and she's talking about how, oh, I wish I hadn't come.
Yeah.
The only time I spoke to him in the car was when they were picking on me, and we see like a quick clip of them like telling her she's stupid for bringing flowers, and it's just I was like, all right, so we're building up character, but then that's very quickly left behind, and it's just back to the ghost talking about the bed
Yeah.
and the demon that the bed came from.
I I still don't really know exactly why they were going to the house. I think they
Yeah,
said
yeah,
like maybe it was a work outing or something, but
yeah, yeah. I never really got why the couple at the start, because it starts with this couple who are just going there to have sex.
yeah.
And by the way, movies. I feel like movies really play up this idea that couples want weird, random places to have sex in, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen in real life,
Yeah.
but it's just like this couple aren't like teenagers. They're a couple of like middle-aged people who are having sex, and they have decided, and they even mentioned that they have walked miles to get to this house because they think it's a good idea, and I don't know why. Because for me, the thought of having sex in a random bed in some old house that's been like empty and abandoned for years does not tickle my fancy.
Oh no, not at all. It's
So,
super weird and gross.
and what's even weirder is he brings a bucket of chicken from a knockoff KFC for their food with a bottle of wine
Yeah.
and two apples.
Which yeah, the bed promptly eats.
Yeah,
So
the bed eats the food first to let us know, okay, the bed eats things, and it eats things by it's like this is how it shows things being eaten, by the way, right? So
yeah.
there's bubbles, there's like yellow bubbles that come up, and then once the food like goes down into the bed,
Yeah.
there's this like weird like underwater shot of like food floating. However, we hear sound effects of someone biting the apples. Like you actually hear
Yeah.
like noises as if there's someone physically eating these things, which was really weird. And then the weirdest part of all this for me is that the food comes back up finished, and it's like just like it's like the apple's been eaten, but there's still the core with the pits and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So like I wonder if the bed is just hungry. Like could you just feed it like regular food? Like does it not have to eat people?
I think it does like killing people. Like it seems like it still, because it seemed like it always did that anyway.
Yeah.
Even when people owned it, and because the ghost mentions that like people stopped coming because people kept disappearing, so they thought that the place was haunted or whatever. Which is a fair idea. Yeah, sure. People would assume that probably. They wouldn't jump to human eating bed. I don't
Yeah.
think that's a pretty extreme thing to jump to. So yeah, that's the intro, and we don't really see the people being eaten. and I will say that I did think they had some fun with the people later on. Like there's a woman who like actually tries to escape and is like half out the
Oh
bed, so
yeah,
it's only her legs that get like mangled. And
yeah,
I thought her legs didn't look mangled enough, but I think that's just the effects of the time. Like they couldn't, like they didn't have Tom Savini working on it. Basically,
right.
they
Yeah,
had like blood poured over her jeans, which was a bit lame. But
yeah,
but then I have to complain that as she's crawling away, It's like 5 steps. There's like 5 steps up to the door, and
mm,
I swear this lasts about 3 minutes of her trying to crawl up these stairs.
it's pretty long.
It's like so long. It takes such an
Yeah.
absurd long time. And then the bed shows us a power that it's never had before. It can apparently like fire out its blankets and like pull you back in. And
Yeah.
it pulls her up through the bottom of the bed into the mysterious liquid that we see, the pool where she's eating.
Yeah. So that's like one thing that I will actually I'd say like kind of praise this movie for is the imagery. I thought a
Hmm.
lot of it looked really cool. Like, it happens a lot, but I did always kind of like it whenever anything, ended up falling into that like yellow acid water
Yeah. Do you
stuff,
know?
whatever it is.
I'm sounding like I'm being really negative, and I did criticize it for the pacing of that scene of the woman trying to crawl away, but
Yeah.
I do kind of appreciate the weird tone that it's got. Cause it's got this really
Yeah.
weird feeling that's very unique, and I can't quite describe it. It's this kind of like surreal. It almost feels like a poem that you've like found lying in the street
Yeah.
somewhere, and you're just reading it, and it's just this really weird poem, and it kind of has that weird feeling to it. It's bizarre. So I'll give it that. It doesn't just feel like a dumb, goofy movie. I mean, I might have
Yeah.
preferred that. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and then and there's like other stuff like too throughout, like you'll see like a statue crying blood,
Hmm.
or like it'll eat something and then something like will grow like outside in the like yard or something, and like like all that stuff. I thought like, oh, this does look pretty cool, and I think maybe like the biggest compliment I can give it is that like I'd hesitate to say it's a great movie or even maybe that it's like a good movie, but I felt like it had potential. Like if there was some stuff that maybe tighten up the plot a little bit, like maybe some pacing stuff, maybe make a few things like clearer, have a little bit of a better budget. I was like, oh, this could actually be like a cool
Yeah,
weird movie.
I think some better effects for the better makeup effects for the body stuff, and I think actual characters that we cared about would have been lovely.
Yeah, yeah,
That would have probably elevated it quite a bit. There is one moment in it I laughed a lot because it was when the ghost is like going through all the past owners of the bed,
yeah,
and it says because he's trying to figure out because for some reason the bed is scared of one of the women, like one of the 3 women who's came, he's scared of eating, and the ghost is basically trying to think about why that is. So he's thinking about all the past like owners and like if there's like any evidence, and one of them he says, "Oh, it couldn't be that old woman," and it cuts to this old woman sitting in the bed, and she's eating like a really old school like lesbian pornographic like magazine. In fact,
oh yeah,
it actually looks like a newspaper more than a magazine. That's how
yeah,
old it is because it's like newsprint, and that really cracked me up. There's something really just like absurd
yeah.
about the way it cuts to that, and it's just this big headline saying Lesbos or whatever it said in the front.
It was actually kind of cool, like the idea of like this ghost trapped behind a painting trying to defeat this monster with like very, limited resources and like, and like, obviously like the bed never talks or anything. So you don't really get much of, this character of him other than this just kind of being this evil force of nature. And then it's kind of cool that, we do kind of have a good guy in this ghost, but he's very limited in what he can do and like, but is trying to find a way to defeat it.
I think I agree with you for the most part. I think they could have maybe done a better job showing that he
Oh,
wanted to defeat the ghost, like, or not the ghost, the bed. Because
oh, right, yeah,
sometimes it felt like he was oddly just kind of like, whatever.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm not saying that it was done well. I just think like the idea
Yeah.
of that is kind of cool.
Uh,
And I guess that's kind of like how I feel about a lot of the movie. Like a lot of the stuff is like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it could be the idea of it is, I guess, better than a lot of the execution.
Yeah, because he eventually tells us about the origin of the bed, and it's because a
Uh,
demon who became the bed uh, was in love with this woman who looks like the woman he's scared of, and that's why he's scared of her. But he was in love with this woman, and he forged this bed so they could have sex out in a field. Yeah, the bed's outside, and but because he's a demon, it killed her, and he cries blood from his eyes, and the blood basically yeah, puts him in the bed, or yeah, basically that's
yeah,
the gist of it. Yeah.
yeah,
That's what I got from the explanation anyway. If I'm wrong, people by all means correct me, but that's what I got from it.
yeah. I basically just got like demon bed. Got it. That's like enough for me.
Dear. But yeah, so there's some wonderful stuff with when the brother, because the brother's looking for her. Yeah,
Oh,
which
yeah,
again is like told us in like it's like one scene of him talking to his mum, like telling
yeah,
us that he's coming, then he shows up, and there's a great scene where he tries to stab the bed and his hands go in, and I was
yeah,
thinking, if the effects were good, he would pull them out and it would be like his hands would be half eaten and we'd see like bone. But when he pulls them out, this is essentially what they do. But it's basically he's holding like cheap like skeleton hands that they've bought at like
yeah.
like a Halloween store. It looks so fake. I like the idea. Again, it's a
Yeah.
cool idea, but it looks so crummy.
It it really I love this part, but just because it looked so well, two reasons. Like one, just seeing that like yeah, just perfect like perfectly bone skin, or no, like skinless bones. Like there's no like hint of meat or cartilage or anything
Or
on it.
blood, or yeah, it's
Yeah.
just perfect white skeleton hands. Yeah.
But then like also the guy's reaction to it like cracked me up like cuz he doesn't pull him out like like and like is screaming his head off. He like and again I think this is just kind of in line with the movie, and it's kind of like weird.
Actually, can I just interrupt you for a
Sure.
second? You
Sure.
mentioned that he wasn't screaming. I had that complaint about the whole movie, actually. I feel like none
Yeah.
of the characters who were aware that they were getting eaten, or could feel it they were getting eaten, were screaming or reacting appropriately. Everything felt oddly quiet.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Um yeah, which I feel like I didn't mind in this movie because I feel like it kind of I guess lends itself to the tone because it is like a very
Yeah, I get what you're
quiet,
saying.
subdued movie.
It's a very surreal, quiet
Yeah.
world. Yeah, I get what you're saying there.
So it's like, and I agree, it is weird that these people aren't like freaking
Honestly,
out, but
I think between us we've said it's weird like 20 times,
yeah.
but honestly,
Oh yeah.
it is weird. We're going to keep saying it.
But yeah, like the guy's reaction to it, he kind of just like looks at his hands, and I forget, he might have even said something like, "Oh, like I thought there would be like
He
more
said,
skin or something
yeah,
like
he
that."
says there's not a hint of cartilage, as if he's making a
Yeah,
point. But all I'm thinking is like, no, no, no. If you had the budget for it, there would be.
yeah,
At the very least, they would look more like bones. They were too clean and white. Like bones aren't
yeah,
that spotless. It's
right.
there's shades of grey on them and stuff. It's not. Jeez, my God. So yeah, so then for some reason, I guess sometimes you get sleepy after you've had a big meal. After it eats the brother, the bed has tired sleeps, because the ghost mentions at the start that the demon sleeps every once in a while,
Yeah,
and it goes to sleep. So the ghost, for some reason, and this is never explained, and this is kind of one of the faults of the movie, is that things just happen because the ghost says they can happen, and he says, "Oh, it's asleep. That means I can communicate with the girl," and he talks to her through the painting, and tells her to do this ritual, and we basically see her do this ritual as he's explaining it, and she puts like random, like I can't remember what they were. Like one was like a bit of bone, one was a bit of feather or something, and
she took like bones from her brother's hands,
mm,
which was kind of weird that she was just kind of like picking like his bones apart, and then I think hair from her friend that had gotten eaten.
yeah. Well, don't forget, he actually got her to take his hands off.
Yeah,
He wanted his hands to be gone, so she actually just breaks them off with her bare hands, as you do.
which is like, does he not realize like how cool it would be to have bone hands? I don't know. I said
I'm sure that's what's going through his head. I'm sure that's exactly what he's thinking. But yeah, so this ritual, like she draws a circle outside, she draws a circle inside, the bed transports outside, and the the woman, like the mother of the bed, like comes out of the grave or like comes back to life, and apparently this then can have sex with the demon, which sets the bed on fire, and that's the end of the movie. It comes up saying the end, and I'm like, okay. So the ghost is freed. Like
Yeah.
it kills the woman. The ghost lies. So he's not completely innocent. He's not a good character necessarily. He's being
Yeah.
selfish. He knows this will kill her, but this will free him and let him go to the afterlife or whatever. And but yeah, so the bed's on fire and it says the end, and it ends. And I think that's my problem with it, is that I had no stakes in the final. Like I'm like, okay, you've not done anything to make me actually care about how this ends. Like
Yeah.
all through this movie, I've just been kind of like, holy crap, this is weird. Well, there's another weird thing, and I've been enjoying it in that way. Like, and it's got like a really surreal tone, and I'm enjoying the weird tone, but I have no stakes in the story. Like it just ends.
Yeah.
So that would be my critique. But there you go. That's what are
No,
you thinking?
I think it's very justified.
Yeah. What are your final thoughts, Timmy, on Deathbed, the bed that eats? I love saying the title in case you hadn't noticed.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I like about it. Like, um, I mean, again, not to sound too repetitive, but it is super weird. But it's weird in a way that I like. You know?
I just love how you started out with, I don't want to sound too repetitive, but it is weird.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you said, it's. But I don't know, like what other way to describe it other than like
Uh,
saying strange or something.
Surreal,
Yeah.
strange, wacky, cockadoo. The director of this, the writer and director of this, who I believe his name is George Barry, or Barry George. I can't remember which way round it is, but the names are like, both first names, so it's really hard to remember. But I want an insight into this guy's mind. I want to know how much LSD he was on when he wrote the script for this.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in that. I have the Blu-ray of it, which has some
Oof.
special features, so I have to take a look at that. But
Oh,
again, it
I hope that's an ultimate 3 disc edition with hours and hours of content about
yeah.
how they pulled this off.
But yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that I liked about it because I mean, I am drawn to weird stuff, but I kind of like when something is like unapologetically weird. Like, like I feel like sometimes you watch stuff and it's like, you know, you get the feeling that something is kind of afraid to be what it is. And this, like, it feels like, like, oh, they're not even like trying to, like go for something else. Like, this is like exactly like like what it is. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean? Like it's not like
Yeah,
trying to be
like
some other movie or something.
yeah. It's not trying to sugarcoat it for mainstream audiences. It's not
Yeah,
trying to do anything like that. It is absurdly proud of what it is,
exactly. Yeah,
and
great way. Yeah.
I don't know if it should be, but you know
Well,
what? At least it's going for something. It's not trying to make just some generic thing. It's what it
exactly.
is. So
Like
yeah,
I would like, even if you would think this movie was bad, I would much rather watch a very uniquely bad movie like this as opposed to I feel like a critique we've come up with a lot recently with stuff like when we watched like Friend Request and those kind of movies where it's bad, but it's in such a boring, generic way that you've seen a million times before. And maybe this didn't, hit, but at least it was trying for something different. And maybe it's not the best movie in the world, but it is. There is absolutely nothing like it. I cannot think of any other movie I've watched really
do you know?
that would compare to this.
Do you know oddly that the thing I'd compare it to the most
What's that?
is Teeth.
Teeth? Oh, okay.
Just
That's
in the
interesting.
sense that
Yeah.
it's like such a weird idea where something eats things. In that case, it was a vagina. In this case, it was
Yeah.
a bed. But just I don't know, something about the concepts that make me think they're a little bit similar in that sense. I mean, Teeth is told differently, and obviously they're not the
Right. Yeah.
same. But like, it's the closest thing I can think of in my head that kind of feels like there's a similarity.
Yeah.
But
No, I think that makes total sense. I can see that.
no, so I think we have to now do the hard task of rating this out of 10, and I don't even know how you rate this movie.
Yeah, this is actually something I was thinking about, like, since I stopped watching the movie. Like man, what would I give this? Because again, I can't really say that it's a necessarily great movie. I don't even know if I would say it's exactly good, but I will definitely say that I enjoyed it. I'm not in a rush to see it again, but I will. I'm sure I'll definitely watch it again at like some point
I
down the
think
line.
it's one of these movies where I'm more inclined to see it again if I'm showing it to someone who's not seen it, because
Yeah.
I'll be what their reactions will be what make it just worth the rewatch.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like you said, like it's short, so it doesn't drag. Like if it was 2 hours of this, I think I would really downgrade it a lot. But for what it is now, again, I there was a lot of imagery I really liked, and not just like the eating portions, and like the weird stuff like the statues crying and that sort of thing, but it also had kind of like a gothic vibe that I kind of like like it was a very like old um house, like it was definitely a house, but it did like look kind of castle-y,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me. um so I did like that, and
I feel like the whole point of the whole review is to
yeah.
explain why we're going to give a rating at the end, but you somehow take the rating section on its own and turn it into a whole
I
other
like
review.
I like a lot of context. People know where I'm coming from. But basically, with that being said, it was kind of hard, but I think I'm actually going to give it a 5, which I think is a pretty good score. Um, Again, it's super unique. It's weird, but I enjoyed it. But it could have been a lot better. But I think there was potential and good ideas in there.
I'm actually going to surprise you and rate it higher.
Oh, okay,
I'm going to give it a
interesting.
6. And
Okay,
the reason why I'm giving it a 6 is, despite all the problems, despite everything else, like
mm,
Timmy said, it is what it is, and it's unapologetic in what it is, and it does have a very unique tone and style that I do kind of appreciate. So despite all the problems, it comes down to this: I do think it's worth seeing at least once. I think it's
definitely.
worth, for
Yeah.
a horror fan who wants to see something different and weird, I think it's worth watching. So on that basis, I'm going to give it a 6, and it was not tedious to get through. It was easy enough to
Right.
watch. So with all that said, I'm going to give it a 6, although it's not really being rated on the same scale that other movies are in a weird way.
It's a much different 6
Yeah.
than other movies we've given that to.
Yeah, like I'd probably give Friday the 13th part, you know, 3 a 6, but it's a
Right.
very different 6.
Yeah.
So, anyway, there you go. That's Deathbed, the bed that eats. Let us know what you thought of that movie in the comments below, if you've seen it, that is, of course. And like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. And get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz. Check out our friends over at Ronan's Reviews. They do written movie reviews. That said, I'm willing to bet you money they've not reviewed this one. They should get on it. In fact, you know what? Give them crap on Twitter. Go and tweet at them. Where's the review of Deathbed, the bed that eats? Your website basically is trash until you've got a review of this movie. Let's be honest.
Demand it.
Demand it. But there'll be a link to their site in the description, so check them out. And I think that's everything. So, one last thing. Check out our weekly reviews of Tales from the Crypt
Oh,
over
yeah.
on the Mailed Fuzz TV channel. I've never seen it before, and we've been doing one every weekend. Every Sunday we put a new episode of that up, and we're having fun working our way through that. So check that out. And that's about it. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Keep watching scary movies, and just, be kind to your bed, because one night it just might decide to eat you. We'll see you next time, guys.